So Nate Hagens had a geopolitical roundtable with Art Berman, Michael Every, and Izabella Kaminska.
If you acknowledge that energy is the wealth of nations, particularly liquid at room temperatures, transportable crude oil, and you have the world's reserve currency, wouldn't it make strategic sense for a country like the United States to keep our oil in the ground and print more money and buy other people's oil? I mean, that's the opposite of drill, baby, drill. It's saving oil for the future. And yet we need it today to power the economy. Are there any thoughts on that?
Nate asked basically three basic questions. Number one, he asked, if oil is going to become if we're running out of it, why aren't we saving it? And if oil is going to decline, won't we have more feudalism? And then lastly, why don't we have adults dealing with the energy problem in the United States? Why aren't societies making sure that we have the politicians, the governments, the whatever, dealing with this problem? And my overarching criticism of the panel, which again, it's a great video, you should definitely watch it. I'm not saying it wasn't very good. It was very good. But to me, I kept on shouting out get real, wake up. No, look at the evidence, especially Art Berman. Art Berman is always trying. And for everybody who's analytical like them, like me, we always want to rationalize what's going on. We don't want to say, oh, it's just random, right? It has nothing, they're not doing anything to do with the issue. Like Trump is pro Russia, only because he feels people will clap to that. Like people are sick of the war or whatever, or sick of Democrats and Biden because they hate them. They want to take the opposite view, just any opposite view. So they're like, oh yeah, Russia, yay Russia. So Trump does that, yay Russia. And then all of a sudden after that gets old, if people are like, oh yeah, we don't like Russia. And Trump goes, yeah, anti-Russia, yes, Ukraine, everybody will just switch. And Trump's only motivation in that is whether people are going to clap for him or not, whether he's going to get the attention. That, to me, is the way he works. It's a TV show to him. It literally is a TV show. When he was in that famous thing in the White House, which is the most shameful thing I ever saw as an American, he said at the end, well, this will make for good TV. It's TV to him. Everything about oil and gas and energy is just TV. He has no conception of what is going on. And, Art Berman talks about this. They all say it, that Trump doesn't really understand any of the issues, but they don't take it to its logical conclusion, in my mind, that he doesn't know anything. He has no policy about oil and gas. There is no policy. The only thing he's interested in is getting attention and getting money. It's a mad rush to make money. When he says drill, baby, drill, he doesn't mean Americans need cheap gas, so we're going to get them cheap gas by drill, baby, drill. It's just partly, again, an FU to the Biden and the Democrats. And then partly he's just basically saying, yeah, everybody, come on. We don't need all these regulations or anything. Let's make money now. But before I go on, let me just go through a little background, a little introduction to some of the things that are discussed if you're new to this oil thing. Okay, so the first question Nate asks, if oil and gas is running out, why isn't the U.S. saving it and rebuilding its reserves? So here's a chart of the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserves, and it's basically dropped from 700,000 barrels to 400,000, right? If there's so much new oil, why are we basically spending from our savings account? And why are we exporting so much? If oil is running out, and everybody agrees it's running out, the question is when, right? I mean, the two camps are, oil is running out either yesterday or tomorrow or soon. And those that say, oh, it's 50 years down the road or whatever, we don't really need to worry about it now. But nobody on either side says it's not a finite resource. Nobody is saying in 50 years that it's going to last forever. No, everybody agrees it's finite. So if it's finite, why export today what we'll need tomorrow? And the orange bars here are what we're exporting. So we're exporting a lot. And every drop of oil that we export is something that we can't burn tomorrow because somebody else will burn it. We take it out of the ground, we send it overseas, somebody's going to burn it. It doesn't come back, right? It's from our finite storage. Same thing for gas. We send the gas over, we can't use it again. So as oil and gas declines, and this is Nate's second question, will we see more feudalism in the world as those who command access to oil and gas gain more power? sort of mean less democracy. And remember, this is how feudalism worked back in the day, right? Land, food was wealth, right? They didn't have fossil fuel energy, right? That was just basically serfs and maybe some horses. So it was the land that had the food that was the wealth. Everybody needed the food to live. So as you can see, there's the farm, that was the wealth, and the power was the castle. And so you had the power and you had the wealth. And the way the power worked is you had the king on top, and then you had vassals and knights, and what was below that? And then, the nobles below the king. So the king, the nobles, which would be the oligarchs these days, and then the vassals and the knights. The vassals would be the technical people like me, who is like a programmer, and then the knights would be, I guess, people in security, and then you'd have the serfs, everybody else doing the work. So, and his final question is, why won't democratic societies get adults to deal with these problems? And here's a photo of Pete Segwith. Anyway, he's the national security guy. And so, is he an adult? Does he know anything? No, he's just a beer-drunk knucklehead. You can believe it. And Secretary of State. I mean, it's just hard to even believe this stuff. So why aren't we as societies getting adults to deal with this problem? I just want to show this graph very quickly. Energy is wealth, period. And this shows that, like, no country that's wealthy doesn't have a lot of energy. There's no countries, since no man's land, there was no low energy, high income country. So in the future, as oil and gas runs out, only those with it, whatever is left, will be wealthy compared to everybody else. And then here's the projected oil and gas extraction. And a lot of people don't realize it's not just about it running out. Again, I think even almost everybody would agree that, there's still a ton in the ground. It might not be good oil or gas, but it's there, I mean, in a bad form. And in fact, the history of oil and gas is just getting the easy stuff and getting harder and harder stuff. And it's the expense that it costs to get it. So it used to be like for every, I forget the exact statistics, but essentially, for every 100 gallons of oil that you would pump out of the ground, take 1 gallon to like run the generator or the pump, to do it. And now it's up to anywhere from 5 to 10 gallons of oil that you have to spend to get the oil out of the ground, through fracking. If you're pushing in water, steam, and sand and all that other kind of stuff, it takes a lot of energy. And that's what all this orange stuff is here. So as the costs get higher and higher and the supply goes down a little bit, you run into some big problems. And proof that we don't have a lot of oil and gas left is that we're not adding any oil refining capacity, right? I mean, if you are going to get a bigger supply of something, then you'd have more factories to process it. And we're not building any factories because it's not coming. And the final thing, here's the North Sea oil, and it went down from 2000 till now. All the technology in the world has not allowed it to get back up to peak production or anything close to peak production. And this is true for every single oil well. This is what M. King Hubbard said in the beginning. And if you just start rolling them up, then it's, the curve goes for everything, or the decline curve here. The only reason we're not seeing it now is probably the Middle East has not reached peak production, so to speak. So they're able to make up the difference. But it's the top three that are making up the difference. And then finally, this is a very important point which Nate brings up. And again, I feel that I'll get that later. But here you can see the red line is total debt growth, and then diesel production is in blue. So diesel production is really industrial production as far as I'm concerned, right? It's the fuel that you must use for the factories, for getting stuff on a truck, to a train, to a ship, and all the rest of it. All runs on diesel. So what that's really showing you is that the industrial production of the world is not increasing, but the debt's increasing. And the debt really is a promise of payment for future productivity. But how can you have future productivity if you're not growing that productivity, right? You don't. So you're now just getting more inflation in debt. And that's sort of, what's going on. And it's a huge problem. And, few people understand that. And here's a producer price index. You can see how prices are going very high. People think that inflation is a temporary thing. And maybe it is. I do not think it is. This is because we're running out of cheap oil and gas, in my opinion. And this is where I feel, again, the Roundtable was just a little bit like, hedging their bets here. Okay, so to answer Nate's questions, I'm going to answer them as if I was on the panel. He says, if oil and gas is running out, why isn't the U.S. saving its reserves? The reason is that it's in nobody's personal interest. Everybody just wants to sell as much. They want to make as much money as quickly as possible. Nobody wants to save. Everybody lives for today. That's just human nature. The second thing, as oil and gas declines, will we see more feudalism? Yes, because that's the way it was before. That's just human nature. And we're already seeing it, with Russia, we're already seeing it here. I mean, a lot of people go on about like Trump is anti-democracy and autocracy. I don't see it that way. I mean, yes, that's true. But really what's going on is that the country is adopting around a feudal thing about oil and gas. Not because they're thinking about that. Again, they're not thinking about that. Nobody is thinking about that. Not the liberals, not Trump, nobody's thinking about that. But I do believe, and this is something that wasn't brought up in the geopolitical roundtable, is that everybody feels it. Like we're all sort of like, I don't know how to explain it, like animals, like when a storm is coming, we also like burrow underneath or whatever. That's what's happening. Like everybody, all humans on the planet have a sense that the oil and gas is running out, and they're all going looking for safety wherever they can get it. And those that have something are selling a bunch so they can build as big a fortress as they can. So the castles are being built right now, essentially. Okay. And then number 3, why won't democratic societies get adults to deal with these problems? Because that's just not human nature. I wish it was, but it's not. It's just not. I can't even get people, friends or family or anybody to even understand the basics of energy, just the basics, and how electrical energy will never solve the problem of what we need diesel for. And Art Berman makes these points. Again, all these people make the points I'm talking about. So this video isn't sort of like disagreeing with anything they're saying. This video is really more about like they're not following their own arguments as far to the logical conclusion as I think that they should, because if they did, I guess it would be very, very bleak. And people will think, oh, well, you guys are sort of crazy, whatever. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to say, no. Things are really crazy. We are heading to feudalism. We're already in the middle of World War III as far as I'm concerned. It's already about oil, and people don't understand it. Okay, so I'm just going to... And again, as analysts, we want a rational mechanism to explain. There is no rational mechanism here in the energy space. All the motives of Trump and everybody else have nothing to do with energy. It just has to do with making themselves better. And Mark says in the thing that he's met people in this space that are very smart, but they're not actually pretty stupid. And I agree with them. Like everybody involved in this, everybody in the government, they're dumb, I mean, they get elected because they give people quick answers. And there are no quick answers or easy answers here. So, yeah, they're just all dumb. And the world is run by nepotism now more than ever. It used to be that clever people were needed to do technical stuff, but it's no more, right? I mean, we have all the technology. It's not really developing anymore. I mean, some say that our technology really peaked in 1970, just like Hubbard said with oil, because that's when we had our first mainframes and stuff like that. So anyway, we just live in a nepotistic world, and it's all people that have money already. There's no new money being generated. I mean, really, who was the last, Bezos or Zuckerberg or whatever? None, right? None recently. It's been like 10 to 15 years since any new, tech person became really wealthy or designed something big. No, it's all consolidating. Everybody who has the money, it's just, that's the way it is. So I also think what's going to happen is that with these huge fiscal deficits, what's going to happen is that the elites will start to think geopolitically. And if you're a country that doesn't have oil and gas, you're going to make sure that you're going to force somebody to give it to you at the price you want to do it. And that's what Europe's going to have to do. I predict Germany is going to go to war with Russia eventually. I'm not saying tomorrow, but in the next 5, 10, 15 years, Germany will subjugate Russia if it can, because it needs that oil and gas at a price that it wants to pay. In fact, I think the whole Ukraine war is sort of Russia saying, you're going to pay what we say you should pay. And if you don't, we're going to take this country. And that's what they're doing. But eventually Europe will get its act together, not because they're a democracy, not because they're nice. Again, when push comes to shove, people will go and take what they want if they can by force. And Europe will do that. Anyway, so listen, what's my conclusion here? Again, that Nate's panel went bent over backwards to find a rational explanation of why energy policy is what it is. And I say there is no energy policy. Point me to it. It can all be explained by, again, these sort of like desires for attention, these desires for money, just like moving the furniture around. Oil will not be shared equally with everyone. It'll go back to feudalism. Patronage will start at the top and work its way from the kings to the nobles to the vassals to the serfs. Trump is now king. The nobles are the oligarchs. The vassals are those who have technical skills, and the serfs are everyone else. And that's the way it is. I say so. Again, it was a great roundtable, but I'm just ranting a little bit. Like, come on, wake up. It's not. You can't rationalize it the way you are. Nate's questions were great, and the answers to them, very few people, even I, don't even want to believe, are the answers, but they are. We're heading to feudalism, and we're heading to a lot of war, and it's not going to be pleasant. Thanks for watching.